In today's video, you're going to learn some great tips with the Rapid Change ATC and Vectric software to be able to run your ATC and your automatic dust boot and how to adjust these post processors. You're going to learn where to find your post processors, where to find your Rapid Change macros, and where to find some of your other settings on the Rapid Change website. And we're also going to go through things that you've been wanting to know about the post processor adjustments and the macro adjustments on how to change a few of the settings in there. So we're going to go through those in this video. So if this is something that you've been looking for, feel free to watch along and get an understanding of how the process works to make your CNC fully automated. And you come on to here and you go right down just a little ways down here, and they have this Rapid Change Services web app. So, and I keep looking over here because I have a separate screen over here that I'm sharing with you guys to be able to see these things here. So we go to the Rapid Change web service app here, and this is what you're gonna see. And so I have multiple different emails. So I have 715 cribbage email at gmail.com. I also have nwwiworkshop@gmail.com. So either way, you can get a hold of me if you have any major questions outside of the comments on YouTube videos here. So if you go to your dashboard, and this is without having, I don't have anything activated on here. I don't have a magazine activated or anything like that. But they did set this up for me because I did make a purchase, and they have my email in there. So this is where you can find a lot of your stuff here. So you can find under your magazine, so whatever you've purchased for a magazine, this is where you can find your mounting DXF files. So I use Vectric, and if I open up my Vectric here, you can see I've brought this up. So I have this basic file here, and I have the tool length setter, which is right in this position here. So it kind of adds that on there. And then you can use all of these to pocket out your different things. So there's two spots. So you got this pocket, this one here, and this circle here are the exact sizes. I think when I did mine to pocket in for these pins, that's how you put these pins in your ATC, and it draws these holes, and you put it down on your spoil board or on your base structure for your table, and that'll position this perfectly either on the x-axis or the y-axis, so you get a perfect straight line. So I highly recommend you do that in here. And then what I did is I just did an offset of all of these pockets here, and so that I drilled all the way through my table, so when I have longer bits, they have plenty of length to drop down through the table. And then obviously you can do the outside of this whole thing so that you can pocket out for your entire ATC so that it fits down in your pocket. So for me, I have a 3/4 inch plywood base, and then I have 3/4 inch MDF on top of that for my spoil board. So I pocketed all the way down through 3/4 of an inch of my spoil board and 1/8 of an inch into my table base. And then that created a nice flat pocket for my ATC to sit into. So I know that I don't have anything tweaked or off, so that I don't have any issues with the ATC. Okay, so that's where you can find this. So you can get it with the mounting, or you can get it with the tool setter, without the tool setter, all those things. Firmware. So here is the firmware file that they say we need for the Altmill SLB EXT to be able to use our SD card. I don't believe I ever installed this one, and mine works just fine. But that's where you find that. Post processors. This is where you're going to find your post processors. So these are Vectric files for your post processor. I suppose you could use them for other things too, but these are specific to me because I have the Altmill. So depending on what system you have, they will send you in this interface here your post processor for your Masso or whatever it is that you're running for software. And I'm going to show you a comparison of what they send you and then what I have tweaked on mine so that you can tweak yours if you want to as well. and it's very simple. And then down here, last one is these printables. You have your 3D probe stand, cup removal tool, collet shields. Collet shields are a big one. If you have a 3D printer, you're going to want to make some collet shields. So, or purchase them from Rapid Change ATC, or get yourself some thin, flat rubber self-adhesive and engraver. You can laser them out, and I've done some of that. You know, I have a little bit of everything, but you're going to want some collet shields, and that's what's going to hold your bits into your collets in case you get a little bit slip. Because the Rapid Change, it does bang that thing around a little bit, causes some vibrations, and even if your tools are in your collets and they're fairly snug, they can still slip a little bit here and there, which isn't the end of the world, but you don't want them dropping out and hitting the floor underneath your CNC. So I use collet shields on everything that I use, and then I don't have to worry about it. And they've worked flawlessly. So that takes care of that section. The profiles, so I have a profile because I have logged in here. You won't have this screen until you activate your stuff here. And this is where you put all your settings and positions in here to create your macros from Rapid Change for your tool setting. So I'm not getting into this in this video. I've done that in some other videos. The other important one here is, so here on the docs file, you have all these different, I guess, profiles over here. So for me, you know, CNC Labs talks about a Gerbil HAL. You know, our board, our SLB EXT is a Gerbil HAL. Well, actually, it's a version of Gerbil HAL, and it's a little bit different. So what they've created with Rapid Change is called a CNC HAL, and that's the one that you're going to want to follow. And that's got all the different things in here that you're going to need to know to set this up. Super important. Probably the most important one when you're first getting started. And this is going to go through, and you can read through this on your own setup. It's going to have your pass through, and then ignore your M6 tool change commands in G-Center, you know, your different connection settings, you know, all kinds of stuff. Invert your probe pin, invert your coolant pins, you know, things like that to make all your stuff work. You can get into wiring. This is the wiring for the ATC itself, and the different color wires here that go to all the different things. And then when you scroll down, you have your Altmill SLB EXT board. It shows you exactly where to install, you know, your 24-volt positive, your common ground, your flood pin, blue wire. So this is all the wiring that you need to do. And this is exactly how I follow mine for, you know, the dust boot and for the ATC. It keeps it really simple. And if you have a super long board and not an alt mill, you have, say, what's that on that CNC has a brain farm, the long mill. So this is the long here, and basically it's the same kind of wiring setup, you know, for that. You can feel free to go through all of these on the website, whether you have an ATC yet or not, and you can kind of see, you know, what's involved to get it set up. But it really steps you through it really super for whatever, you know, setup you have. So if you have a Masso, here's all your Masso stuff. So here's your wiring for the Masso. So it still goes through your ATC board layout, and then here's your Masso, you know, stuff here, and it tells you exactly how to wire it up. Okay, so let's get into the post processor. So we're going to talk about the post processor here. We're going to get into let's see, the comparing the post processor from what you get from the web UI, which is what you can download. That's what's on this left side here, in this magenta purple color. And then this one on the right side right here, this is what I have made some tweaks in here that I've highlighted to show you exactly how you can tweak things too. So we leave, you know, 99% of this program alone because they do a really good job of setting it up. And for my setup, when I do my, I have the dust cover. So if you don't get the premium model and you don't get the dust cover, your post processor will look a little bit different. Like, for example, this M8 code here in this one, you're not going to have these M8 codes in here for your flood pin, because you're not using the flood pin to open and close your dust cover on your ATC. But if you have a dust boot, you're going to want to put these commands in there. So Rapid Change doesn't know if you have a dust boot or not. So if they don't give you your file because you got the Pro version and they don't put these M8 codes in here and M9 codes in here, you're going to want to add them to your post processor. So I guess for all intents and purposes, I can highlight these on here. I'll just highlight these. I guess I'll just highlight these green for them. And then you basically just come down here to, I guess let me give you an understanding. So you have this 1000 series numbers, this little O with 1000. You have 2000 series commands, and then you have 3000 series commands and everything underneath that. So the next one that we're going to is under the 3000 commands, and we're going to where it has an M4 command, and that is M4 command is telling your spindle to turn on counterclockwise. And so this is for unloading your tool. So when I set up my macros in G-Sender, so this is the tool change macro is what this is. This is processor. Sorry if I said post processor. This is your tool change macro. And so when you create your macros, you're going to set your pickup speed, which is down here at 2100 is what I set mine at. It's automatically going to adjust the second speed in here. So for me, I adjusted mine to 2600 RPMs for unloading, and that's the only change that I've made. I just wanted to have a little bit more RPMs to unload it so that I make sure that comes off of there. Typically the standard setting is just fine, but I up mine just a little bit. And then down here in the 4000 series numbers, this is where you're loading your tool. So I had mine set at 2100. I manually adjusted mine to 2250. Yes, I could have done this in the web UI and adjusted that to 2250, but I just do these in here now, and it's just a little bit faster for me. And then all the other commands are all the same. So this is where I have a double strike. So it'll go down and it'll pick it up, and it'll strike once and then it'll strike twice. So depending on what you have set will determine, how many strikes you have in here. And then we go all the way down. Everything else stays the same. And then this is where I have my feed rate set a little bit higher. So I think the standard feed was 50.8 for what I set in my macro for my tool setter. And so I upped that to 762 millimeters per minute, or whatever that is, because everything in here is in millimeters. So I go a lot faster when my bit goes down to touch off and do my tool length offset. It goes a lot faster because it's the one that you buy from Rapid Change is so accurate. You can go pretty fast with it, and you don't have to wait for that bit to go really slow creeping down to catch that. The last one down here is I added an M9 code, or I actually removed the M9 code. So it came with the M9 code in here, which the M9 code shuts the flood pin off, and that lowers your dust boot. And so I don't want that to happen because I don't want my dust boot to come down on my ATC. I want to wait till that moves out of the way before my dust boot comes down. So I simply just removed it. And that's it. So for the tool change macro, that's everything that I've made adjustments to. But almost all of that is configurable in your web UI. But the M8 and M9 flood pin commands, if you got an automatic dust boot. I'm sure at some point they will update their web UI to incorporate an automatic dust boot if you got them on the flood pins. But again, that's not their product. So I don't know if they're going to do that or not. Okay. So let's move on to the post processor. And the post processor, where do I have that file? It's going to be here. And let's open it up right here. So I'll just show you this is my optimized post processor, which I don't really have things highlighted. But really there's not that many changes that I've made in here. So the post processor, let's back up here a second. Let's go back into Vectric. So if you have other software, I'm sure it's similar to figure out, where to find your post processor management. But in Vectric, you go to up here on the top, you go to your machine settings and go to post processor management. And you can see these are all the post processors in Vectric that you can choose from. And they got some other settings or whatever. So all you do is go into the web UI for Rapid Change, download your post processors, put them in a file that you know where to find it. You click the little folder button down here, and you go into whatever file you put those post processors into. And here you can see I have the optimized Rapid Change right here. And I opened that, and you can see it puts it right in your post processor, and it'll ask you if you want to make that your default. And of course I said yes. So I'm using the inch post processor. So they have one for millimeters and they have one for inches. So everything that you do in the inch one, you will assign all of your properties for your moves in inches and not in millimeters. So that's where you got to go into Vectric and install your post processor. So Vectric does not have a Gerbil tool change processor that I'm aware of at the moment. So if you try to save a file with a tool change, it won't let you. So you're probably using the Gerbil, let's see if I can find it here. Here's the Gerbil inch G code here, post processor. So that's probably the one you're using for Altmill now, and that does not have anything for tool changing. So there is no tool changing in there. There are other, like Grizzly B13, whatever that is for a machine, that has an ATC post processor, but Gerbil does not have one. So you need the one from Rapid Change ATC in order to make this work. Okay, so when you're saving your files, so if we go in here and create a quick toolpath, let's just close that, and let's just do a profile. Let's just calculate. Okay. So now I have this, it's going to cut, and if you wanted to save this cut, your post processor right here, you're going to want to make sure you select your inch Rapid Change ATC post processor. Make sure your machine is selected like normal. This I don't have set up yet for my Altmill. This is on a different computer that I'm using right now. And then you're going to want to set visible toolpaths to one file. So then it's going to be one file that's going to run all your toolpaths. If you have 7 tool changes in your file, it's going to do them all at once, and it's going to use your M6 commands to control everything. So if you don't have this post processor and you set this to, let's just say, this tap file, and I try to save it, oh, it actually lets me. Let me click on a different one. Let's see if I can do that. Let me add one. I'll add the Gerbil inch in here. Select, apply, okay. Let me set that. Here's the Gerbil inch, and it shouldn't allow me to do that. It still does. That's weird. Maybe because there's only one profile. Let me add another profile in here with a different tool. Let's select a different tool. And that's tool number, let's just say that's tool number 2. And calculate. Okay. Let's go into this one. And let's see what this one says. So it's tool 4. Let's just call this tool 1. Select. Okay, and calculate that. Okay. And now if I go to save, now see, now because I have 2 profiles with 2 different tools, now it's going to give me this error because I'm on this Gerbil inch G code. It gives me an error. It says the visible tool paths use different tools and the selected post processor does not support tool changing. So you can still do everything manually. You can do your visible tool path to multiple files. You can group them where possible and do all your stuff and save it. But in order to do the tool path to one file, you have to go in here. You have to select the Rapid Change ATC because it's got the correct codes in there for multiple tools. And now you can see that error is gone. And if we click save, we get that to wherever we want. So hang on. What's up? I'm doing a video.
Oh.
Awesome. I get to pick?
Yeah. Is that the boba ones? Oh, soda pop. Did you see the boba ones?
I didn't realize it was boba.
Boba.
Cool.
Cold Stone.
I'm going to try these.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Love you.
Okay. So that's kind of how that works with Vectric and all of that. And now let's go to the post processor in here. So this is the Rapid Change ATC post processor. If you open it up in a notepad, you can view all these files in here. So this is the one that I have optimized. I've only changed a few settings in here. So right here in the header commands, I added this M8 code to open the dust cover. So one of the first things it does is it opens the dust cover before it does any moves. So you got G00, which is a rapid move, G20 for metric, G17, G90, G80, and then you come down to your M6 command. So you always want your M8 to turn your flood pin on before your tool change command. That way it opens up your dust cover, or it will raise your dust boot if you have both of them connected to your flood pin. And then M03 will start your spindle. And then G04, I have a P8 in here. So G04 is a dwell command. And that basically tells your software to pause. So mine I've set to 8 seconds to allow my spindle to ramp up. So the M03 says turn my spindle on, and then S is in brackets here. So it's going to, whatever I had set up for my RPMs for that particular program or that profile, it's going to turn it on in the clockwise direction, M03 clockwise to that setting. And then it's going to pause for 8 seconds, allow that spindle to ramp up. And then it's going to do a G94, which I can't remember exactly what G94 was off the top of my head. And then M9 is going to, close that flood pin or turn it off and allow your dust boot to come down and close your dust cover. And that's all after. So turning the spindle on, pausing, and G94 is actually your first move command. So it's going to tell it's going to move to your first start moving location, and then it's going to turn your flood pin off as it's moving. So those are all happening after the M6 command. So this is M6. You can see the T is in parentheses here. So it's going to do a tool change using your TC macro from Rapid Change that you have put on your SD card, and it's going to run that whole program. So this one line runs that whole TC program. Once that tool change program is done, then it's going to turn your spindle on, pause for 8 seconds. Once it's ramped up and it paused for 8 seconds, then it's going to start moving to your first program feed moves, and then it's going to close your dust boot. So that's what that's going to do. So you can adjust those, add your M9 codes, add your M8 codes if they're not already in there, and then adjust your pauses for how long you want your spindle to ramp up. All right. And then everything here, so you have commands, output for rapid moves. I haven't changed any of these at all. Outputs for your first feed rate move, output for all your feed rate moves. So you got lots of different commands that you can look at when it starts your first counterclockwise move. You know, all kinds of different things. So this is just the program that's kind of telling your machine what to do, and everything in brackets. It's getting everything in brackets. It's getting from your G code files that that it created for your program in Vectric. All right. Coming all the way down, the next things that I change in here is begin tool change. So these are the commands that you can put in before it starts your tool change. So if you look at this, we read from top to bottom and left to right. So your tool change is at the very bottom, M06. So that's for your tool change. So before you go to do your tool change, you can add your M8, and that will turn on your flood pin, which and opens your dust cover. And then it has an M05, which will turn off your spindle, is what M05 does. And then I have here a G4 dwell command to pause for 8 seconds because I want my spindle to ramp all the way down and stop before I do my tool change. And then it looks for the tool name, and then it goes into your tool change command. And again, this one tool change M6 command runs your entire tool change macro that we went over that you have on your SD card. Okay, so once that's done with the tool change command, then it goes back up to your header, and it'll do all this stuff again after the tool change. It'll ramp up your spindle, it'll pause for 8 seconds, it'll start your first feed move to go to your material to start running, and then it'll shut off your flood pin and lower your dust boot and close your cover. The last one down here is your footer, and these are your commands that you can add to the end of your file. So most of these are in here already. So at the end of your file, when your file is done, all the tool changes, this is your footer at the end of the file. So before you end your program, it's set up to M5, which is shut your spindle off. And then it raises your Z here. So G0 is a rapid, is telling it, I want you to go fast in a rapid move. And then G90, it wants to use the machine coordinates. And then G53 is a command for a move. And then Z0, it's just telling it to move your Z to Z0. So it goes all the way up. So before it goes anywhere else, it's going to clear anything that's on your table. And then I added in this M8 command, and that M8 command will open up the dust cover, raise the dust boot before it moves anywhere other than Z. So it'll Z up, it'll open up the dust cover, raise the dust boot, and then here I got another dwell command for pause for 1 second. And then I put in this custom park location. So for me, I work on the front half of my Altmill. The back half is pretty much open unless I'm doing a bigger project. So I just have it move to machine coordinates, and because this is the inch post processor, you can put all your stuff in here in inches. So I moved to the machine coordinates of x38.0 and y -13.0. And so it'll move there to that location. So my Z's already up. My Z went up, my dust boot went up, my dust cover opened, and now it's going to rapid move to that location. And then M2, the final command, is the end program command, which will turn off your flood pin automatically and basically end your program. So then your dust boot will go down. And those are the only changes I've made to the post processor. Everything else works flawlessly. So as you can see, it's really pretty simple. If you follow along with this video and just kind of pause it, add some of these things in there, just got to kind of start understanding some of your G code commands and what they do, and then you can kind of start reading this like a book. So that takes care of everything with the post processor and kind of how it all works. So I guess in summary, you gotta get your post processor from Rapid Change. You have to get that into your software for Vectric or whatever software that you're using to output your CAM files, and make sure those are working together. And then you have to get your macros from Rapid Change ATC, especially your TC macro. Make sure that that is on your SD card. So then your post processor, has the commands for M6, which will point it to your macros on your TC card. And then your files, actual files. So when you save a file that has all G code in it, that might have 1,000 lines of G code commands in it, and that's going to automatically create all your tool change commands. So Vectric does that automatically, and so that's why there was the error in your when you weren't using the correct post processor, because the Gerbil basic post processor, when it reads that file that you're trying to save, it says, well, there's tool change commands in here, and you got more than one tool, and I don't have tool change commands in my post processor, so it gives you that error. So once you put this post processor in there, now this one has the commands and it knows that, and so it doesn't give you the error, and it allows you to to save the file. So one solid file to automatically do all of your post processing. So this is basically the post processor automatic tool changing. Okay, hope you learned something today. Please like and subscribe if you like the content that we're providing. If you have comments or questions, put them in the comments below, and I can keep putting out videos so that you guys can kind of keep tweaking things on your own. Feel free to reach out to me at nwwiworkshop@gmail.com if you have any specific questions or you want to work one-on-one together. Thanks. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.